Okay, let's talk about generating some more ideas for your writing notebook. I've already started to see some of your work from those of you who have been in school with me, and I'm really excited that you're becoming really good writers. And soon, some of you from home will be sharing your writing too. But what we want to do is get a few good stories in place. That way, when we go to celebrate our writing, we can choose our favorite to share with everybody. So, let's talk about how we can generate some more ideas. And we've been talking about trouble stories because true stories, they have some sort of trouble in them, or maybe something that the character really wanted, or there was a problem that needed to be solved. And that's what gets the reader really interested in caring about the characters is they get to know them and they want them to have their problems or their troubles resolved. So, here's some ideas of what you could do to generate some stories. And you could set up a page in your notebook like I did. There's one big plus sign in it. And then up here, you could start to think about what are some stories that you have from your home. So, for example, if I think about a true story I have that includes some sort of trouble or want or problem I had in my home, I remember the time that I caught the kitchen on fire. And I could list this as a story that I could possibly write just to remind me about it. I can remember that so well. My parents had a babysitter, and I went into the kitchen while she was in the living room, and I wanted something that was up above the stove that I wasn't supposed to have. I think it was probably candy. Can't remember exactly what it was, but when I climbed up there, my foot accidentally hit the knob on the stove and turned it on, and I didn't know it. And then when I went back in the living room later, we could smell smoke, and it was because there was stuff on the stove when I turned it on that caught on fire. We had to go outside, and the fire department came, and then my mom and dad came home, and they were just so happy that we were all safe and everybody was okay. That was quite a story. So maybe you have a story you could put on your list for in your home. Maybe you have a few you could add. Maybe you have other ones to list too. Well, then you could think about what about stories from outside? Like I can remember the time that I got stuck in my tree house. Me and my cousins used to play out back all the time, and we had one ginormous tree. And we took scrap wood that our parents had thrown in a pile out back that they didn't use anymore, and we built a really not so great tree house, but we loved it. It probably wasn't like the tree houses that you see nowadays because we weren't very old and we made it by ourselves with hammers and nails and pieces of wood that were left over in the scrap yard. And I climbed up there one day, and once I was up there and realized by looking down how high up I was, I got really scared and I couldn't get back down because I was too afraid to. And I started screaming and hollering for my mom to come and help me, but she couldn't hear me because she was in the house. So that was quite a story for me, too. Maybe you can think of stories that have to do with things for fun. Maybe it was about something you really wanted. I can remember one of my stories about really wanting to go to Disney World. I mean, forever I wanted to go to Disney World, and my parents always talked about taking us there, but they didn't really have enough money, and I knew that they were working really hard and it was really expensive to go there, but we talked about saving money for it, and so I wanted to do work to help save money for it, and I can remember I had a savings bond that I was given for a gift from one of my family members, and I wanted to turn it in to get money to give my parents to take us to Disney World. And so I would like envision what it would be like when we finally went to Disney World. So maybe one of your stories is about really wanting something. Or maybe you have a trouble story about something fun like a sport you played, I bet. Maybe you have a story from school. I can remember the time that my best friend and I got into a fight. And it wasn't a big deal, but when I was about 8 years old, it was a really big deal then. You know what I mean. It seemed like it was the end of the world when we got into a fight, but now that I think back on it, it was probably something really silly, and we're still friends now, and we made it through the fight. But that day when it happened and we weren't talking anymore and we thought we weren't friends anymore, it was a really big deal. It would be a really big story for me to write. Maybe you have some trouble stories from school too. So see if you can start generating some new story ideas that you might use for your next story. And tomorrow we'll talk about choosing one to start a new story. Bye, guys.